All right, here we go. This is Rockin' with Jammin'. It's with Cowboy Mach Bell. How you doing, man?
Hi, Jam. Doing good, and it's a pleasure to be on your show. I've been watching your shows, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much, dude. Yeah, it's I'm just trying my best to do what I can do, you know?
Looks like you're keeping busy.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm busy. So, how are you holding up during the pandemic?
um, it's a serious time. Uh, my heart goes out to people. I mean, we just hit the 500,000 this morning. I think of people that passed away from this horrible thing. Um, Having said that, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm here with my cat, my wife. I've got a nice place here, and I'm protected from it. I'm an educator. I work with kids, and I do that via Zoom right now. And being pretty off the road as a rock and roller at this point in my career, I'm more concerned for a lot of my friends. I mean, look at Aerosmith. They were going to be last summer. They were doing a European tour. They had the biggest stadium in England booked. Then they were going to come back here, play Fenway Park, where the Red Sox play. All that. So it's not only the fans that miss out and the band that misses out, but all the crew members, and they've got a huge crew, and then all their the promoters and the light company and the sound company. It goes on and on. The merch people and all the guys outside that were going to sell hot dogs to the people waiting in line. So that concerns me, and I'm very so thankful that this didn't happen to me when I was out rocking with Thunder Train and the Joe Perry Project and other bands that I was a singer with.
So congratulations on releasing the audiobook for Once a Rock Star, Always a Rock Star.
Yes, Jam, it's once a rocker, always a rocker. But I like the rock star. Maybe that would be my follow-up book. So did you check it out at all? Have you been checking out the book?
Yeah, I did. I actually did like it. I played it when I was gonna go to sleep. I was just listening it tonight to figure out to ask more questions. So yeah, you gave me a little bit more details to ask you about.
Well, thanks. Usually when I tell guys your age that they say, "What's up with you?" I say, "Well, I used to be in a band," and they're like, "Who gives a crap about that?" They no, they don't appreciate the stuff that us rockers went through back in the 80s and 70s and onwards.
Yeah, they're only like, once you are, if you're not a part of hip hop, you need to get out of here. No hip hop. You don't talk like that, fool. Don't know hip hop, fool. You rock top fool.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for Aerosmith laying down that beat to Walk This Way, and that got used on so many of those early hip hop records, hip hop might only be a hip or a half a hop.
Good one.
I don't know if it was a good one, but hey, you know something, Jam? Before you ask me a question, this is funny. This is how long I've been rocking. I have a connection with your show. You had a guest on who, okay, listen to this. Before I was with Joe Perry, I was with a band called Thunder Train. We had a road crew guy named Jimbo. He was just a kid. Jimbo was with us for years on the road. Jimbo left. This is back in the 70s. Jimbo left. He moved out to the West Coast, had a family, had children. One of his kids grew up to be Jimmy, who is now the bass player of the Lonely Ones, who were guests on your show the other day. Jimmy is the guy with the long curly hair who's sitting up on top of you in the video. He looks just like his dad, Jimbo.
Oh, that's awesome! Wow.
Yeah, I think he's playing bass now, but young Jimmy with the Lonely Ones is a really good guitarist. I think what we should do is we're going to get a band. I'll get Danny Hargrove from the Joe Perry Project to play bass. I'll get Jimmy from the Lonely Ones to play guitar. I'll be the singer, and I'm going to get you, Jam Man, is going to be our drummer.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you. Drop it. Thank you. So I have to ask. You wrote "Hot" for the Teacher originally. How did Van Halen get away with stealing it?
Yeah, that was funny. You've done your homework. Yeah, Hot for Teacher. It was the title of a song that Thunder Train, the band that Jimbo was our roadie in. Steven Silva, who was a super hot lead guitar player here in Boston, was our guitarist. And he was also a songwriter. He came up with this title, Hot for Teacher. He told me that he saw it on one of these little books that was in the Dirty Magazine store. He said, that's a great title. So he wrote this song called Hot for Teacher. We recorded it as a single in 1976, and it did really well for us here in New England, and it ended up going over to England and charted over there. Somewhere along the line, this new band from California got a hold of that single, and they said, wow, this band Thunder Train is great. We'd like to have them open up for us. We're doing a show in Cleveland, Ohio, at this place called the Agora. So Thunder Train traveled out to the Cleveland Agora to open up for this band. This is 1978, this pretty new band from California called Van Halen. And what happened after that was weird. We got to the Cleveland Agora for, I don't know why, but Van Halen never made the gig. So they brought in this other hot band from the Midwest called Roadmaster. We did the show with Roadmaster, and I didn't really hear much more from Van Halen until years later when I was on the road with Joe Perry Project and I went to Tower Record. We were playing out in the Sunset Strip in California. I went up to Tower and bought this new album, the 1984 album, and I look at the liner notes and it's Hot for Teacher, and I said, what the hell? It's a totally different song than ours. Ours was a straight ahead rocker. It didn't have like all the crazy drums and you know, of course, Eddie invented a whole new way of playing guitar that didn't exist back when Thunder Train was around. But definitely, I think they saw that title and it stuck in their heads and said, let's roll with this. Thunder Train's gone and forgotten. And so Van Halen, now when people hear Hot for Teacher, they think of Van Halen, not Thunder Train.
Did you get any credit for it at all?
No, the thing with titles is you can't copyright a title. I mean, some dude down the line, some 6-year-old guy could come along and say, I'm going to have a show and I'm going to name it Rockin' with the Jam Man. And you could go, hey, wait a minute, that's my name. And the little dude would say, sorry, Jam, you can't copyright a title. I can't steal your act, but I can steal your title. That's why, you know, I mean, a lot of these songs, if you look, they, you know, titles like Get It Up or you know, I Love Her or whatever, they get made over and over again by different bands.
Did you ever meet those guys?
The Van Halen guys?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I never crossed paths with them. They were the biggest band in America at the time that I was touring with Joe Perry Project, which was like 82 to 84. So they, you know, it was hard to get to see them. Who I was more meeting up with were the bands that were playing the club circuit that Joe and I were on at that point, the bigger concert clubs, bands like Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, guys, you know, and we do arenas too. You know, everybody from Cheap Trick, Joan Jett, to, I mean, we were playing with Marshall Tucker and Huey Lewis. I mean, everybody that was hot in the early 80s, that's who we were working with. But Van Halen, yeah, they were in the stratosphere.
So I know a lot of singers keep a notebook with them to write down ideas. Is that how you got the idea to write a diary?
Yeah, Jam, that's pretty much how it is. Guitarists and drummers are busy carrying all that stuff they got to carry, and singers, yeah, we'll have a little notebook in our back pocket. I don't know, for one reason or another, I also like to draw cartoons. I used to like to draw, underground comics and monster stuff, Godzilla and stuff like that. So I would always have these little books with me. And so it was very natural for me, I'd keep the books to write ideas for lyrics and things for my songs, or to write down the lyrics so I would remember them. But that's why when I got the call to join Joe Perry, I immediately started a diary, keeping a record of what happened day to day. I didn't know how long I would get to play with a guy like Joe Perry. I mean, he was huge. He was a huge classic rock star at that point. Oh, I don't know if they called it classic rock back then, but he'd already had a huge career in the 70s. I didn't want to forget anything that happened. So it was only natural for me to keep notes. It didn't seem weird to me at the time, but then as the years went by, it turned out that I was the only guy keeping notes on a lot of this stuff. Now, I had these writers from the books, the big Aerosmith books, Stephen Davis, who wrote Hammer of the Gods about Led Zeppelin. He wrote Walk This Way, the Aerosmith book. Guys like him would reach out to me to find out, what exactly was the date that you guys got signed to the label, or Joe decided he wanted to leave the band, or whatever. When did Joe first meet his wife? Blah, blah, blah. I had all those down, plus I could tell you what we ate for dinner that day and which Holiday Inn we were staying at. I just had all these details kept. Turned out to be a good idea. Do you keep a diary, Jam?
Nah.
You don't have to so much, because you live in the age where, you got these shows, so they're dated and stamped, so that you talk to the dude from 10 years after, on whichever day, or the Blue Oyster Cult guy. But back in my day, we didn't have, a Facebook or something to record all this. So you had to kind of write it down. Otherwise, and a lot of the guys I was hanging out, we were drinking beer and other stuff. And so they were in the haze anyway. They didn't remember. You could ask them the next week what they did last weekend. Oh man, I don't know, rocked.
I don't know, man. Rocked, no. Kind of got a shotgun shell up a earwax out my ear though, but it's all right.
Shotgun shell of wax. You did read the book,
Yeah.
dude. You're definitely the young that's read the book. Not to bring up your age, but I know you're a little younger than me. I know I look like a teenager, but I'm a little older than that.
Did it hurt at all when you pushed it through though? Did it hurt when you accidentally pushed it inward?
Oh, Joe's band, the project was so loud that I slipped away, and I took some toilet paper wads and stuck them in my ears I didn't want them to, I wasn't going to wear earplugs and be a baby, but I did hide and I had long hair then. So it hid that I had this toilet paper in but then when I tried to take it out, it got jammed inside my ear. And so I ended up having to go to the hospital next morning to have it extricated. That's what Jam's asking about. Just filling in here. Yeah, it was awful. The guy had to go in really deep with these big forceps and pull this paper out of my head. And then all this wax came out, because I'd been touring at that point for about 10 years with super loud rock bands. And that's how, your body has natural protection things it does. And so then my ears were like baby's ears after that 1 year. He didn't do both, luckily. So I still had 1 ear that was full of wax, but I had this one that was empty.
We don't want 2 shotgun shells. No, we don't want 2 shotgun shells. No.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was the size of a shotgun shell. That's obviously that part of the book impressed you. That's what stayed with you. I like that.
It stayed the entire time. Now, did you just write a diary for your time with Joe Perry, or did you always write one?
Yeah, I'm always writing a diary. I don't know what's with me. Yeah, I've got diaries for all the bands I was in. I joined the circus for a while. I was in a 3-ring circus. I kept a diary of that. Um, yeah, and and plus I do regular human being things too. I got married and I travel around the world and do things. And so I keep records of it all. Um, a lot of people, after they finish reading Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker, hey, I'm plugging. After they read Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker, they say, dude, I want to hear more stories. I want to hear more Joe Perry stories. I want to hear more Thunder Train. And what about the band Wild Bunch that you and Danny started afterwards? So I don't know. I'm starting to put something together, I think, and do a further adventures. Some of, I thought people would only be interested in my adventures with Joe Perry and Brad Whitford because they were superstars. But a lot of people said, nah, we liked your rock and roll adventures. It doesn't have to be with like the superstars. It could be with Thunder Train playing at, wherever you guys played. We want to know where you played and what you did. Like that story I just told you about the Agora when we went to open up for Van Halen and they ditched us.
That is that. We were they like, you know what? We're just gonna take the name and then ditch you. Yeah, and then you can go bye bye. Go bye bye. Thank you for the name. Thank you so much. How did you try? Sorry, what?
I was just going to say, but Jam, that's how it is for everybody in the business and guys in movie business and everything. I know you like to watch the horror movies and stuff. People borrow from each other, and it's only natural to take bits and pieces that you like from other people's stuff and Frankenstein them together to make new things. So Van.
What? How did you transfer the diary into the book? Because some days are really long stories, and other days are like, I went to dinner or picked up a check.
Right. Good question, man. Yeah, I kind of had to mush it around a little bit when I said I was on a podcast actually with Michael Butler on the Rock and Roll Geek Show, and he said, you got to release this diary, Mach. So, and then that made me think. And then the next day I started getting all this mail from all the people that watch his podcast saying, yeah, do it, man. And if you do it, I'll buy it. I'll be a first day buyer. So I said, damn it, I'm going to do this. So when you turn a diary into a book, I wanted to do a few things, like to introduce characters in the beginning and kind of get you into the story in the beginning. That's why, like, some of the early chapters or they're not early entries, I juiced it up a little bit and gave you more, like you would in a movie, to try to kind of introduce you to what this movie is all about. And then as you get into it, then it starts to move fast. And then every so often, certain just, we drove another 600 miles and the gig is still 300 miles away. But other days, like, incredible stuff happened. The road manager got drunk, the guitar tech got arrested, Joe passed out, blah, blah, blah. And those ones, I'd beef those up, to make a little movie out of those kind of. So it ebbs and flows. I think it makes it kind of cool for the reader to have some days that go zipping by, and then because that's the way it is when you're on the road with a band. Some weeks are just explosive with all kinds of stuff, and other weeks are like you're in suspended animation in space, just waiting for something to happen.
Oh. Just waiting in the space of rock.
Hey man, are you waiting for King Kong versus Godzilla? Are you into the giant monsters at all?
I am definitely in that. But I really hope, actually, if you look closely at one of the scenes when they're running down the stairs, that's actually Mega Godzilla. If you,
Okay, good. So Mecha's going to show up too.
Well, there's actually two theories. I can tell you if you want to. Do you want to know the two theories?
Yeah.
All right. So one of the theories is that he's trying to get this biotechnology that can make Mega Godzilla, or he's actually Mega Godzilla in disguise.
Wow.
But there's a lot of evidence for the second one. A lot of evidence. I keep my track, okay? I just keep in track.
I'm glad I checked in with you. You're my Godzilla man.
Yeah. If you need to know about Godzilla, talk to me.
All right.
What was it like doing the audio version? How long did it take you to do?
It was at first I was Jim, I didn't want to do it. I never really thought I'd write a book in the first place. It took a long time to write the book, and then I put out the book, and then people were saying, do an audio book. And I was going, dude, now I got to go back and read the whole book into a microphone without making a mistake. Oh, geez, I just finished writing the thing. I don't want to, but Earthquake Morton, my old buddy from rock and roll days, got in touch with me, and he said, Mach, come on, man, where's the audio book? And I said, Earthquake, I don't want to read the whole damn book. And he said, no, you don't have to read the whole book. He says, I'm a professional. He's got a deep voice.
Like,
Carl, you don't have to.
That narrator voice? Like he's telling the next. Okay, yeah, he's that.
Yeah, the other voice that comes in. He's the guy that calls me in the very beginning of the book and says, Cowboy, you got to go to Boston and audition for Joe Perry. Because he was working for my manager, Tim Collins, the man that became my manager, Tim Collins. Yeah, so Earthquake called me and said, rethink it. And so then it turned into this whole kind of fun thing because I was working with Earthy. We both, we're both musicians, so we have our home studios. And then as you listen to the audiobook more, you'll also hear Danny Hargrove came over here and cut some stuff with me. He's the bass player with the project. Danny and I cut some stuff, and I got Charlie Farron, the singer before me in the project, to do some stuff. So all these things, it suddenly became a really fun, interesting project. And as you know, sitting in your studio there doing your YouTube show, it's cool to have a project at these times when we're locked into our houses anyway. It's kind of cool to have a project that you're doing with different dudes, and you can put these things together. So it turned out to be kind of fun doing the audio book, and I'm really happy with how it came out.
I actually loved the story. It was pretty good. I actually found it interesting. I actually found it pretty fascinating. I actually pretty liked it a lot. Kind of had to stay up a little long, but yeah, I had to pull through.
You didn't listen to the whole thing, did you? It's 12 hours long, dude.
Yeah, I listened to the entire thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're a marathon man. So, all right. So I think that's the quote right there. Jam Man, I listened to the whole thing. Because, a lot of people thumb through a few pages and say, oh, this is good. But you listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Jam, all right.
I had to get the whole story just to get the nature of it. I had to do it. I had to. I stayed up a lot.
You must stay up because I know you're turning out these interviews, and I know you do your homework. I hear you asking good questions from all your guests. And it's fantastic.
So originally, you did not want the gig with a Joe Perry project.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of that.
So originally, you did not want the gig with Joe Perry. Joe Perry.
Yeah, it's true. It was because I'd been got a lot of doors slammed in my face in Thunder Train trying to get record deals and the big gigs, get up to the next level. And I finally said, I've had it. And I stopped rocking, got a regular job working for my dad at his stereo store here in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And when I got this call asking me to come audition for Joe Perry, I initially said, no, I don't want to do it. It wasn't because I didn't want to do it, but I just didn't want to go down there and give it my all and then have Joe go, nah. I just couldn't, I didn't want to take that chance. But, that's the wrong, thankfully, Earthquake that we were just talking, Earthquake Morton called me back and said, I'm not taking no for an answer. You're going to do it. And thank goodness, because that's how you make it in this business, is by saying yeah and being there and showing up. And that's the guys that make it. Show up and do it. They don't say nah.
No, they do it. They have to. You were once a rock star before you were officially hired?
Oh, wrote the song?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know if the song lyrics might have been floating around in my head already, because it's hard to know when you write a lot, ideas come and go and I rejigger them. But so there could have been something in my head, but it was truly inspired when I showed up for the audition. I heard Joe playing this kick-ass riff, and it made me think of Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker as a title. And I quickly wrote lyrics to it. And I don't know if it was my second or third day back at the audition that I started singing it while Joe was playing. I figured it would really give me a leg up and get hired for the band if I could prove that I could write a song with him. Especially not, it's one thing for me to say, hey, Jam, come on over, let's write a song. And we both sit there with our pads and stare at the wall and try to think of a song. But, he was just playing a riff. He wasn't even thinking about writing a song necessarily. And I did my thing. And I just came in and started singing over what he was playing. And boom, there was a song. And it was like, that's how you write that's how you write a song. You just do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you're thinking of the beat or like the lyrics of it, like something happens like this. Like that. See, it's like it gets in, like one noise makes, and then you make it again, and then you add like the songs, and then it actually makes a pretty good beat, and then you do that with the lyrics. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. If you kept doing that beat that you were just doing, I could think up lyrics to it, and then next thing you know, we got a song. And and if you were the drummer, the famous classic rock drummer who was looking for a singer, that's exactly what I would be doing when I came to audition for you. I'd be listening to that beat and then come in and start rapping over it and, make something cool. Then you could take half song credit and you hardly had to do a thing.
Were you shocked when you found out you were more a hired gun getting paid for a gig? Were you pretty shocked? Were you like,
yeah, it was that's a whole different thing for me. Yeah, I'd always been like a one for all and all for one, a band where I'd get together with a bunch of guys and we'd start a band, and then if we got paid, we'd all divide it equally, and we'd have band meetings and decide things like, what are we going to call ourselves, and whatever. Whereas with Joe, I was a hired gun. He was the star of the band. I was the lead singer, front man, or I thought of myself as the front man. But Joe was the front man as well. At times, Joe very much wanted to be a band member and part of the band. And, he traveled with us. He lived with us. It wasn't one of those things where the band stayed in a tent outside and he stayed in a nice room in the Holiday Inn. We all traveled and lived together. But at certain times, if there was an interview or something cool is going on, sometimes Joe would suddenly disappear and he would be, the star, obviously, and we'd be the other three. It was, it's kind of a balancing act and a little crazy sometimes. sometimes you feel like an equal and a band member, and other times you definitely just feel like somebody's being paid an hourly to show up and sing at the shows. But
Uh,
I wasn't complaining, Jim. I wasn't complaining. Anybody that gets a chance to play in a band with Joe Perry, and Brad Whitford was with us when I joined. Anybody gets a chance to play with those dudes, you know, you keep your mouth shut and just hope the ride continues.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of true. That's pretty true. Yeah, you agreed on $100 loan. That was $100, and you weren't even working. 100. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, $100. Yeah, that's what happened. When I joined, I thought, when I went down to the manager, it's in the book, I thought that I was going to get put on some fabulous salary. I mean, I saw Brad and Joe and Ronnie were all driving in Corvettes and Porsches, and they had all the gear you could imagine. I was figuring, geez, these guys got a lot of money. And I figured, you know, they're probably going to put me on this big salary. And wow, this is going to be so different from where I was at with Thunder Train. But no, Tim Collins said, no, you get paid by the gig. And at that point, we were still rehearsing. I didn't know when the first gig was going to be. And I was like counting my change to buy a Slim Jim. You know, I had nothing. So I said, you know, we rehearse every day at 1 o'clock. I can't really be working a regular job and show up at rehearsal. And so Tim said, yeah, okay. I'll front you $100 a week. And so that's what happened, you know, until we started working. I got a check every week at the office. And that, and then when we started working, it was a little bit better because we were doing gigs and I was getting paid for the gig. But then when Joe passed out on 6 dates in on our first coast to coast tour, and we all had to go back to Boston for 6 weeks and didn't work for a month and a half. Then I went back to making nothing because I got paid by the gig and there were no gigs. And at that point, I don't think I was getting my $100 a week either. It was just Danny and I twiddling our thumbs and looking through the couch cushions for change.
Man, I knew I had an extra quarter in here. Where is it?
That's right. Luckily, well, I had a girlfriend who was gainfully employed working for the Cars, who were the hottest band in Boston at the time. And she had a nice office job. And so she had a steady paycheck. So at least there was some food in the refrigerator that I could raid.
Let the good times roll.
There you go.
Was it hard to deal with Joe Perry? Was kind of down, and when you hooked up with him?
Yeah, he was in bad health, very bad health when I hooked up with him. And yeah, and then it got better when we started working and we had Brad in the band. And so musically it was pretty awesome. Joe and Brad, of course, playing together. They hadn't played together in a couple of years at that point because they'd both out of Aerosmith for a while there, and not together. So yeah, with Brad, his health got better, but then when Brad left to go play with a different band out on the West Coast, then Joe started to really take a fall. And of course, that was when we went out to start the tour. And so, yeah, there were issues that had to be dealt with. And unfortunately, it kind of all fell apart while we were out on the road in front of a crowd of 1,000 people when Joe had a seizure and passed out on stage. It's kind of a really dramatic part. First really dramatic thing that happens in the book, closes the first act. And then it was a regroup. But once we regrouped from that and Joe dried out and got the help he needed and divorced his first wife, which was a big part of the problem between you and me, then he started to rock it back up. And his playing got super. And we never missed a date. And I'm not saying that Joe was a Eagle Scout. He was still partying, and he could get a little messed up sometimes, but he was very, very serious about rehearsing and playing gigs, and his playing and his guitars and how they were set up, and every aspect of the music. Joe took so seriously. I was super impressed with how seriously he took it.
Do you have a strict no gum rule at your shows? No gum allowed. Just play.
Are you referring to the time that the kid chewed up 5 wads of gum and threw the whole thing at my hair? I had big hair back then, and whammo, I got a big glop. I didn't know what it hit me. I just felt this warm stuff dripping down the side of my face. I thought that maybe I'd got cut and I was gushing blood out of my head. And when you're in the middle of a song in the spotlight next to Joe Perry, you can't really like run and look at a mirror. I just had to continue until I can't remember if it was a drum solo or a part of the show. Maybe Joe sang his solo song or whatever. I ran back to the dressing room and I see this massive wad of, big league chew down the whole. It was like the Magnificent Melting Man.
Did you get your revenge? Did you just get a huge gum and put it in his hair or something? I want to know how you get revenge from that.
Yeah. That's the thing, if it was just my band and I was back in Thunder Train, I would have come out, with my swinging with a microphone stand and gone out and found the dude, clobbered him. But that's like what you asked before. I'm a side man for Joe Perry, and this is Joe Perry's thing. Joe's there playing. He doesn't give a darn that I got gum glopping down my hair. He doesn't even know that it happened. So I can't go out attacking the audience when I'm working for the boss, It wasn't my own band. So, yeah, I kind of finished up the show and muttered and was all pissed off to myself. But the thing was that episode happened just a couple nights before Joe had the seizure on stage. So Joe had his own problems. He was like in La La Land, and everybody in the band was like trying to get their bearings. We were still brand new out on the road and trying to figure out, and Brad had just left. We were all trying to figure out stuff. And I'm standing there with gum stick the half of my head. I did have to cut off a lot of my hair. I'll tell you that, because it was beyond repair.
How did it look? Was it like this? Oh, come on. I guess it's time for the scissors now.
Damn, I looked even worse than I normally looked, and that was pretty scary. I mean, we all. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, actually, you know what? I think maybe I was the one that started the whole early '80s flock of seagulls style haircuts and Duran Duran. After I chopped off my hair, I looked like somebody from the Thompson Twins. I don't know if that joke is. I don't think that's working for you, but
I'm not getting any reference.
Early '80s humor.
Yeah, I watched a lot of '80s movies though.
Not that humorous either, but.
And what went through your head when he had that seizure in the car in Virginia?
Yeah, well, that was the thing. He had a seizure twice that day. First, it happened in a car and scared the crap out of me. It was right out of a horror movie. I mean, Danny and we're in a van. That's how we travel. We're in a back seat of the van, rolling down the street in North Carolina. And, the music's jamming. AC/DC's playing. Our drummer's in the back on his practice pad. Business as usual. All of a sudden, Joe straightens out in his seat like he's on the slab at the mortuary, and his skin all turns gray, and his veins are bulging out of his neck and out of his forehead, and his eyes are rolling back in his head like he's possessed by a demon, and head is bouncing against the ceiling of the van, and Hargrove and I, our eyes bugged out, and what the hell? And our drummer, Ronnie Stewart, who had been with Joe ever since Let the Music Do the Talking, the first album, he'd been around for like 3 years. He immediately knew what was going on, and he came flying up from the back seat of the van over to Hargrove and I, and landed, on the console next to Joe, who was in the shotgun seat, jammed his wallet into Joe's mouth to keep him from biting down on his tongue. And, our road manager, ripped the van over on the side of the road and ran out and get some water out of the back and try to cool down the Admiral. We called him the Admiral, Joe. It was bizarre and totally frightening. And the thing that was really messed up was we were, 600, 700, 800 miles away from home. Our crew was already up the road at the next gig, setting up the show for the night, sold out 1,000-seat concert club. We went to this little health stop place, but, they didn't really know who Joe was or what was going on. And Joe wasn't about to tell him. And I don't know exactly what was going on. He had some imbalance in his system, obviously. But then Joe kind of looked okay again, like he'd recovered somewhat. And so we're like, well, what the hell? What are we going to, are we going to turn around and run back to Massachusetts, or are we going to forge forward, and do the gig? So we went ahead to go to the gig, and then it happened all over again. 4 songs in, Joe hit the deck in front of everybody in the spotlight. Man, I couldn't believe it. We freaked, but it was a reality.
Like, did you think like he was gonna attack you right after that? It wasn't like you said it was like he was possessed by a demon, so it was like really scary. So did you think he was gonna attack you by any chance? Like,
yeah, right. If it was a monster movie, that's what would happen in the next scene. Yeah, he would then turn on everybody, and he'd be a demon. But Joe is not like a demon type of person. He's actually a sweet, gentle soul, except when he's shooting guns and targets and blowing stuff up. But generally he's a very kind-hearted guy. So I wasn't afraid he was going to rip out my heart. But I didn't know what was going to happen when that happened the first time. Luckily, it calmed down. And I'm not sure what happened after, Doc, our road manager, got Joe out of that place when it happened that night. And then Joe disappeared. They were off back to Boston in the next flight home, I imagine. They took off in a taxi cab. And the rest of us all packed up the van and did the long, sorrowful ride back to Boston, when we were supposed to be heading off to Texas and California and Las Vegas and all that. It was tough. That was a hard, it's like AC/DC, so it's a hard, what do they say? It's a tough way. It's a way to the top. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Thank you.
He had another one that night at the show, but it was blamed on electric shock.
Yeah, that's our fast thinking road manager, because you don't want to say, whoops, you're the guy you just hired to play just passed out on the stage and now we're leaving, goodbye. No, you want your money. And that's what Doc lied and said, what's the matter with you, to the manager of the club? You just electrocuted Joe Perry. Blamed the whole thing on a shock that Joe got off the mic or off his guitar or whatever, which was not what really happened. And then the manager's freaking out that, I just killed Joe Perry. Now I'm in big trouble. So Doc was able to get our money. I don't know if he got the whole money, or he got enough money to get Joe out of there and get him back to Boston. He got the money. We didn't get blamed for anything. The club owner thought it was his fault. And, we promised to swing back around sometime. Maybe Aerosmith will make up the date. Joe Perry project never did. Don't look at me. Now this is when it's nice to just be the paid side man. It's not my band, man. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just the cowboy. I'm just here to sing.
I can show you what this is probably went through his mind right when he said that. I think I'm going to run for my life now. Yeah, I got the cops on me now. What have I done? But he must have felt like, oh, when it was just a seizure. Oh.
Well, when he didn't just drop dead. I mean, absolutely. As far as I was concerned, it could have been the end of Joe, and that would have been it. And it wasn't like we had resuscitation. I mean, we could do mouth to mouth, I guess, but we didn't have like those big things, the electric boom, the defibrillators or anything like that on us. And yeah, it could have been the end. It was freaky.
What are some of the favorite crazy stories from being with Joe Perry project?
Well, definitely the Do or Die tour, which happened. I've been with the band a year. We were without a record deal, for the longest time. Joe had been on Columbia and got dumped off the label just before I joined the band. I thought Joe would get another deal really easy, but it wasn't that easy. So we're out playing all the time, and our manager Tim was trying to get a deal. So he sent us out on the Do or Die tour. That idea was either we do it and get the deal, or else we die. We had a brand new drummer, Joe Pett. We had our crew were about your age. We couldn't get any like professional guys anymore. Like for one reason or another, I don't know if we weren't paying enough or if they just didn't want to be involved with the insanity of the Joe Perry project. So we had all these. They were a little older than you, but they were really green. And we had this. So we had this, young crew, and we went out and we did this national tour that ended up really bad with the road manager getting drunk along with the Joe's guitar tech and Joe, and the two crew guys both got arrested and hauled off to jail. Joe Perry was passed out in his room and couldn't move, so the rest of the band had to roll him up in his bed cover and carry him out of the hotel and hide him in the van and then go tearing off, because we didn't want the police to come find us and arrest us too. Because there was all this before the drunk crew got arrested at the hotel. They had destroyed the hotel, and they'd actually written "Cowboy Sucks" all over a lot of the furniture because they were mad at me at the time. So being the cowboy, I wanted to get the hell out of there too. So this was all happening the same day that MCA Records in California was trying to sign the Joe Perry project. So you had this crazy stuff going on down in Florida with the arrests and Joe being passed out, wrapped up in a blanket. At the same time that Tim was trying to finesse getting the record deal signed, but Tim knew if MCA found out that we were being arrested down in Florida, they would not sign us. And we were desperately trying to finish the tour, but now our crew was in jail. That's one of the kind of crazy times with the project, and that's one of the ones that's more than one page in my diary, because it's a tale. There were a lot of, there were so many, the famous time that Joe Perry and I went hitchhiking in Southern California to the gig because our rotten van had blown not one but two tires. The crazy times that we had in Las Vegas, Hollywood, you name it. It was just it was one crazy thing after another.
So they call you the cowboy, eh? They call you the cowboy. Do you want?
All right.
Do you?
I'll give you I'll give you the very brief story of the cowboy. I was Mach Bell in Thunder Train. When I was little, like really little, I used to do beeps. When I went to the bathroom, I'd do beeps.
Cowboy.
You know, and then if I was outside playing with my friends and I had to do beeps, I'd go behind a rock, and that was cowboy beeps because I was outdoors, right? You do it like a cowboy behind the bushes or behind a. Anyway, that was my little kid name, Cowboy Beep, or my name for doing beeps behind a rock was Cowboy Beeps. Many years later, I'm at a rock and roll party, and at this house, and the host catches me climbing out the window, and he's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go out and do cowboy beeps." And he says, "Cowboy beeps?" I said, "Well, there's a big long line at the bathroom door, so I'm going to go out and do cowboy beeps." So I explained the story to him, and so that guy always called me Cowboy after that, and that guy turned out to be Doc, who 5 years later walked in when I was auditioning for Joe Perry, because Doc was now the road manager of Joe Perry, and he hadn't seen me in a long time, and he sees me, he goes, "Cowboy," and Joe Perry looks up and says, "Cowboy," and so after that, Joe, it stuck. Joe always called me Cowboy after that. And then the whole project called me Cowboy. And then I ended up being called Cowboy on the record album. So that's why on my book, I'm Cowboy Mach Bell. Hey, when Joe Perry calls you something, you might as well roll with it, right?
Yeah, you might as well. You might as well, partner. You might as well.
I'm not that kind of cowboy though, Jim. I'm the kind of cowboy that goes behind a rock.
But you don't know how to throw a rope, partner. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to swing it like a. All right.
That's all the girls were hoping I was one of those cowboys. Nah, I did wear bandana and cowboy boots, but every rock band in 1983 did that. So, nah, I was just a guy that did beeps behind the rock.
What are some of the worst memories from being with him?
Well, definitely the worst for me was the day that we got called to the office and found out that our group leader was quitting the group to go rejoin Aerosmith. That would hit me in the gut. I wasn't really expecting it, even though the rest of the rock and roll world kind of were expecting it. Everybody was figuring Joe would eventually go back with Steve and Tyler. But I was in denial about that. I thought that Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker album kicked ass. It was great. We were playing all the time. We were getting more popular. Now we finally had a record deal and a record out. Now the rock magazines were writing about us. We were on MTV. We had a video. Things were finally starting to come together. And then Joe quits the band. I was like, oh, that was very, very difficult. And, and it's the sad ending for my diary, but that also kind of worked, book wise. I mean, sometimes, like Titanic has a sad ending, and a lot of your favorite Godzilla movies have a sad ending, or, looks pretty sad when Big G goes off into the ocean. You don't know if you're ever going to see him again.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Goodbye, friend. Like, this is Godzilla's kind of guy. He's like, here, I'm gonna go save the world real quick, and then I'm gonna make everybody think I'm gonna go die. He's like that kind of guy. I'm gonna make everybody sad now. I'm gonna go away, and then they're gonna come back and then throw a nuke to wake me up, and that's how I do it.
King Kong had a sad ending too when he fell off the Empire State Building in the original film, but that kind of worked for me when I turned the diary into a book. It's a pretty funny book. I think it's got a lot of adventures and a lot of laughs in it, and then it kind of has this melancholy ending. You heard the audiobook, so I added another chapter at the end to kind of, so it doesn't end just with me getting out of the van the last time. It's pretty raw, but that's rock and roll, baby. It is pretty raw, from talking to these guys. I'm lucky, I'm still friends. I still talk with Joe Pett and Danny and Charlie Farron and these different cats. A lot of these band guys, they were on tour with people for years, and then they're not even friends anymore. It ends really bad. So it's kind of a deal with the devil. You get to rock the world, but you got to pay the price.
Yeah, it's always like, it's kind of like you can rule the world with the rock, but then you gotta put it away. You gotta close it. It's always kind of like that, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of poetic when you put it that way, Jim.
Doesn't it answer you, and for you, that you stuck with him when he was at his worst and helped bring him back up only to leave and go back to Aerosmith, to help him, to bring them all back up, but then he's like, I'm gonna go back, guys. I'm sorry. It wasn't really. It was definitely a good pun, and it was definitely a really good punch in the gut, though.
Yeah, it was a punch in the gut. I don't think anger entered into it. Definitely sadness, and but I never held anything against Joe Perry because he had given me the opportunity to do this amazing thing with him for a good long time. We were out there for almost 2.5 years, and it was a rock'em sock'em 2.5 years. I mean, there was so much that went down. So, and back then it was hard to really see it all for what it was. That's a kind of interesting thing about keeping a diary and then be a book, and I'm able to step back and really see what it was, as opposed to when you're living it day to day. You'll see that with experiences in your life, like having your show. It'll take on a different. There'll be a new aspect to it when you're able to be a few years down the road and look back at the body of work that you've put together.
Are you guys still friends?
I'm out of touch with Joe. We were friends on and off for quite a while while he was with Aerosmith. I found it a little difficult to remain friends with him because I wasn't making music with him anymore, and I wasn't in his band anymore, and we couldn't help but talk about music, and it kind of hurt because we'd been so close for a long time. I mean, it was really hard when I'd go see his band. When I'd go see Aerosmith, it was hard to be hanging backstage and having a good time. And then all of a sudden, Joe and the rest of them run out onto the stage, and I get hustled off to this, area with people that won a prize on the radio station to be backstage or something. And I'm just another of the crowd, and why shouldn't I be? I'm just another guy, but I used to be right on that stage singing those songs, and now I'm with the radio station winners. So I didn't dig that. And so that's one reason I'm good. Not really, it's hard to hang out with Joe and Aerosmith because they're a super busy bunch, and you're either in the band or you're outside of it.
Yeah. What's next for you guys? For you?
Well, yeah, it's pretty much for me. I am thinking about. I'm kind of putting stuff together for another book. This is kind of a late in life discovery for me, writing, and I'm kind of digging it. I mean, this is the total thing that I did not think about or expect when I wrote it, that I would end up being on like Rockin' with the Jam Man, or Rock Talk with Mitch LaFon, or the Rock and Roll Geek Show, or all these other podcasts and cool TV and YouTube shows that I'm going to go. And as you can see, I like to talk. So it's really, really fun for me that people are interested to hear here's some of what I have to say. So yes, I'm writing another book so I can go out on another book tour. Oh yeah, and the other thing, just before the COVID thing happened, like the day I was going to start my first Comic-Con. I was going to do Northeast Comic-Con, and they had me. I was going to be, signing my book, and taking pictures and hanging with people and talking about rock and roll. Oh man, it was going to be a blast, I think, and I was really hoping that was going to roll into something. And so that's my hope, that as we come out of the pandemic, that I'm still booked to do the next Northeast Comic-Con, whenever that is. It'll either be this summer or in November, depending on how the virus goes. That I'm looking forward to. Imagine sitting there, I'd be sitting there, I'll have Godzilla on one side of me, King Kong on the other, Eddie Munster's hanging out. I'm, signing autographs for Wonder Woman, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I actually like talking to. I'm kind of a big talker myself, but I also know a lot of people who do Comic-Cons. I can actually hook you up with a lot of people. Tony Todd, are you a fan of Tony Todd? I can hook you up with Ari.
Nice.
Con and different gigs.
I'll keep in touch. I'll keep in touch with you, Jam, because that would be, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm friends with the promoter of the one here. I'm thinking that I'm going to really dig it, and be looking for more connections and stuff. I'll check it out and I'll talk to you.
Any chance of a medical onion?
Mechanical onions. Mechanical onions.
Any chance of a mechanical onions? Onions. Getting back together.
Jam, I can't believe that you're a fan of the Mechanical Onion, dude. You're really going back.
Oh.
I think once again, I'm waiting for you to get hot on those drums, and we'll maybe we can get the Mechanical Onion back out there. I know a lot of the enthusiasts are waiting.
How do my followers follow you?
oncearocker.com. Oncearocker.com is my website, and you can contact me through that. You can look if you put Mach Bell, MACH, like the speed of sound, like a Mach 5. If you put Mach Bell into a Google search, you'll find like all kinds of stuff where you can connect with me too. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I just got on Twitter and I have like 11 followers. So I'm pretty proud of that.
I need to ask you one question about the drums. Is it all about rhythm or is it calmness?
Is it all about riffing or the what? Tell me.
Or is it like, or should you be kind of a smooth kind of drummer?
Yeah, well, you got to be able to just get into that groove and stay in the pocket and just grind it out and dig doing that, playing along with an AC/DC record and just digging in and not doing all the fills and not doing all that. Those things are awesome down the road. But if you want to jam with Joe Perry and Brad Whitford and the guys that are on your show, they want a drummer that can just get in that pocket and just hold it down while they riff out their ideas. Once everybody's got their idea and it starts to form, then you're going to see the opening where, maybe you can throw something in. But, you don't want to be throwing, don't give it away, Jam. Don't give it away. You got to, treat every one of those drum fills, like it's worth, $1,000. I'll give you one, people. Boom. And then back to just chopping wood. Boom, pop, boom, boom, pop. And then you ration it out. Never give the people too much for free. Don't be one of those drummers gets out on stage and starts doing a whole solo before the band's even started up. No, you got to ration that stuff. Aerosmith were always great at that. They totally, you did not see them. They didn't hang out I'm talking back before they were big, when I used to go see them at the youth centers and stuff. Those guys would hide out. You would not see Steven Tyler or Joe Perry for free hanging around at the bar or here or there. You know, they would come out in an explosion and do their thing, and then they would disappear. They rationed it out, man, and it really worked well.
Yeah, yes, I will wait. Yes, I'm gonna be that kind of drummer. I won't be like, I'm just gonna wait until they come, and then I'm gonna bump, 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 then, yeah, like how you do it. Kind of, yeah, I'm gonna like it. I think I'm gonna be used to it. Get used to drumming, and they can get the new book. They can get the new book, and all your cool merch there. Correct?
Yeah, my book is an online only book. You'd probably, I mean, it might be in a bookstore someplace if somebody's super hip, but it's online. Amazon is my biggest seller, and Audible has the audiobook. The audiobook's a trip. I really, people even have read the book have got the audiobook, and it's kind of really different. There's a lot of different stories, and it's set up in a different way with the way we narrated it. Audible has the audiobook, Amazon has the book. Plus you'll find the book at like Barnes and Noble and Walmart.com, and you know, anybody that sells books online.
Do you sell autographs covers? Autographs?
Oh, thanks for asking, Jam. Yeah. oncearocker.com, my website. It's up near the top. It tells exactly how to get the I love to autograph books. I do them, you know, I personalize them to people, and I'll write something cool to you, and I'll throw in a bookmark. And yeah, man, another plug. Here it is. Very glossy. Once a rocker, always a. That's once a rocker, not once a rock star. Once a rocker, always a rocker.
Once a rocker, always a rocker, man.
330 something pages of diary, day by day.
No, thank you. Thank you for being on my show. Thank you for being on my show. Thank you so much, actually. But I hope the next time we talk is at the backstage at one of your shows, dude. You are pretty cool, and thanks for interviewing me.
Jam, thanks, man. Yeah, at a show or at the Comic-Con with Godzilla, you, me, and Godzilla. Yeah, thank you, and thanks to your producer over there too. You guys are doing a heck of a job.
Thank you so much.
All right, catch you later.
Catch you later. Peace.